It is 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals are now set. The Minnesota Timberwolves took down the Denver Nuggets 98-90, overcoming a 20-point third-quarter deficit to get the win in Game 7 on the road. They now move on to face the Dallas Mavericks, and the Indiana Pacers get a win over the New York Knicks. Too many injuries piling up for New York. 130-109 was the final. So Boston will face Indiana. That series begins on Tuesday, and Minnesota will face the Dallas Mavericks, who took down Oklahoma City. Controversial call in Game 6. The man who was on the play-by-play for that, Ian Eagle from Turner Sports, is going to be joining us in hour number 3. Also, Xander Schaufelle wins his first ever major, holding off Bryson DeChambeau by one stroke, birdieing the 18th to take home the Wanamaker Trophy. It's a Monday. We got a lot of stuff to dive into, and we start right now on 620 Rip City Radio. And a very happy Monday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer, Brenden. Safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Monday. Got a lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. I am still amazed. That when we were last with you here on Friday morning and we left for the weekend, number one golfer in America got arrested and had a felony charge and had 3 counts of
getting
crimes.
a rain tomorrow, I heard.
We'll see. We'll see if it even gets that far. But and tip of the cap to Xander Schaufelle. I don't have any honest feelings about Xander Schaufelle. I couldn't, if you would have asked me on Thursday heading into the tournament, Justin, what do you think about Xander Schaufelle? And I would be like, I know he's good. I know he's on the Ryder Cup.
I should have put my money where my mouth was, Justin, because in a very joking way, I mentioned to you on Thursday, I'm like, one of my favorite golfers just to see do well is Bryson. And casually, I turned it on Sunday, again, busy weekend, and was like, oh, look at that. Xander obviously beat him by a stroke. Watch the end, but he was right there.
But here's the thing that I like about a guy like Xander Schaufelle is getting that first one. I think, what must that be like to just get one golf major? Because you think about for years and years and years, there was it was Phil Mickelson until he ultimately kind of got over the hump. It's like, when's Phil going to win a major? And then it was Sergio Garcia. When's Sergio going to win a major? And those guys ultimately ended up winning majors. And then that continues. It just kind of trickles down. And then when you get your first one, it's fun to watch. And I don't know if you were watching. I was watching the whole thing. I was sitting, no big deal, in the backyard watching golf on the TV. Basketball, if it would have been more competitive between the Knicks and the Pacers, might have been able to switch from screen to screen, but basketball remained on the secondary screen. But I'm watching the 18th especially, and it's like Bryson birdies out. He's now tied. You've got a very approachable par 5 there on the 18th. Schaufelle off the tee. He's got to know what's going on. Now he's got to stand in the sand trap. He puts it would have been better if he would have been in the sand trap than where his ball was at. Because now he's got to have both feet in the sand trap, choking up on a shot. You think about the practice and the time. I remember talking to he's Peter Jacobson. Peter Jacobson, professional golfer, played at the University of Oregon, helped create Golden Tee, made a gajillion dollars on the Golden Tee. But I remember I was talking to Peter Jacobson at an event one time, and he was talking about just the amount of time that pro golfers put in to their craft. It's hard to comprehend. It's hard to understand Just the amount of hours upon hours upon hours on working on every swing, every situation. And then you go into the tournament, right? Especially a major. Like, you're there all week playing practice rounds, trying to find, like, this is where my ball flight goes. I'm more than likely going to be, I might be in this bunker. I might be in, and I don't know if Xander Schaufelle had practiced 2 feet in the fairway bunker, 4-iron, above your feet. Oh, no big deal, by the way. You got to get home in 4 or else you're going to a playoff. After you've had the lead all day long. I was nervous, and I wasn't even playing. I was just sitting there in the backyard, and all of a sudden, puts it up there, chips it close. He's got a 6-footer. 6-footer for the tournament. First ever major. Nobody's ever gone 21 under in a major championship. Boy, and he merry-go-rounds it around and loop-de-loos, and then it goes down. So, tip of the cap to Xander Schaufelle. Brenden, I might be changing my tune on Bryson. I might be changing my tune on Bryson. Not because of the way he plays golf. The way he plays golf annoys me. It just flat out annoys me the way he plays golf and really the way he carries himself. But did you see the clip where he's walking off of, I think, the 10th green? I think he's walking from 10th to 11th. Now, keep in mind, he's in the final round to win a major, which would be massive, especially for live golfers. Especially for the live golfers who almost got, and listen, you made your decision, you made your bed with that live stuff, but for the live golfers to be able to be in contention at a major is a massive thing. And there's Bryson in the middle of it, just after 10, and he goes walking from the 10th green to the 11th tee and does what probably so many, like, he had his ball and just flipped it to a kid. Everybody was standing there knows, like, he clearly was just flipping his golf ball to a kid. Hey, memory could be made. We talked about the foul ball thing last week about how if I ever got a foul ball at a Major League Baseball game, I'm turning around and handing it to a child, right? It is a baseball that I could easily afford. I could go buy a dozen baseballs right now. No big deal. Kind of rolling in it. But you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's a souvenir, but it's more about the moment. Give it to the kid. Well, he goes to flip the golf ball to a kid. Grown adult man sneaks in, intercepts it, and then tries to, like, casually walk off because he knew that the ball was meant for a kid. And first off, where are you at in life if you feel the need to intercept a golf ball? Like, this was not like a foul ball where it's off the bat and you're like, it's a crowd and it's kind of crazy and you're like, oh, I just reached out and, you know what I mean? That's one thing. You're sitting there watching a professional golfer clearly look at the 9-year-old to flip him the ball.
Does it cost as much to get in there as, like, Augusta?
No.
Okay, good. So, like, any Joe Schmo can kind of get in there?
It still would be a pretty penny. It's a major.
Like, expensive or still, like, waitlist kind of stuff?
Not waitlist.
Okay.
No, anybody who could afford a ticket, I think, could get a ticket.
Okay, fair.
But,
like, if it was a once-in-a-lifetime, like, Augusta-type moment, Justin, I might grab that ball.
when it was clearly being flipped towards a child.
I need to see the video.
Yeah, watch the video. It's insane.
Yeah, I need to see the video. I need to see the video.
So here's what happens afterwards, though. This is where I might be changing my tune on Bryson DeChambeau. He stops in his tracks, turns around, and hollers at the guy. I wouldn't say he yelled at him. I would say he hollered at him. And I see those two as very different.
A holler.
When somebody say, "Oh, they yelled at me," it was like that feels like you are being scolded. Holler is just like a raised voice. Does that make sense?
It does. I think a holler might be a bit of a small town thing, Justin.
You never been hollered at?
No, I don't know that I've heard it, but I don't know if I've ever been like.
Oh, well, there's a.
But yeah,
hey, like I yelled at him or I hollered at him. Like he was down the road and I hollered at him, and it was like, oh, I got it. So it was a holler, as far as I'm concerned.
He went at him with the club, Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm for it. Way to go. Way to go, Brian. Like, I still kind of annoys me. But I think it might be just more, I can deal with him annoying me as opposed to just disliking almost everything about him.
Notice how there wasn't any. Sorry, I'm like, I look at the clip, Justin. I end the clip, and there's a Louisville, Kentucky police officer right there. Have to just at least he didn't tackle anybody or try to jump on a hood of a car.
That's true.
Sorry, I had to get my shot in for the
body cam was turned off. See that?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. You see that?
No, I did not.
Conspiracy theories around. I have been such a Scotty Scheffler truther over the last 2 days. I've become obsessed with this. Like I'm reading like eyewitness accounts.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
That's really disappointing.
Weird. Body cam not activated. Probably because he was doing traffic. And anyways, he was not hollering. He was yelling.
That's true.
But
no, that video is insane.
Good.
Everyone to check that video out if they haven't seen
good
it.
for Bryson.
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm saying? Like,
is he not frat guy anymore? Is he growing on you a little bit?
Like, the way he plays golf still annoys me. But I'm sure the way I play golf annoys lots of people. My point is, though, if you're at a baseball game and somebody hits a foul ball, it's up for grabs. If I caught it, I would give it to a child. That's just me. But it's up for grabs. It's a home run ball, a foul ball, whatever. Golfer walking clearly sees child and goes, and you go right in front. Like, it wasn't like it was. Bryson didn't throw it up to the crowd.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe like up and
no, he threw it clearly intending it for this little kid. D-bag guy grabs the ball and tries to. So good for him. Good for Xander Schaufelle. Good for fun golf down the stretch. It was fun to watch. Wish some other guys would have been around there. Might have made some money, but that being said, I didn't. But we also have a lot of basketball to dive into. We have a Final Four, more storylines, more narratives, and more myths of the NBA busted. We will have that coming up in just a bit. But before we do, I want to tell you about DeBella. That's right, the good folks at DeBella. They're Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, and bathroom renovation experts. And for the past few months, we've been telling you about DeBella and all the great work. And maybe you've been thinking about updating your home. Well, now we are in May. It is the perfect season to make it happen. DeBella does phenomenal work. They've been featured on Better Homes and Garden, Real Simple, HGTV, 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google. That's their customers telling you how much they appreciated DeBella's fine work. Plus, they've received award-winning customer service accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor. So, as you plan your summertime spending, want to save some money? How about potentially paying for a new roof with savings and federal and state incentives? Just go with solar. That's right. DeBella's got all the details on updating your roof with solar shingles. Connecting with DeBella is so easy. Estimates are always free, and they are scheduled at a time that is convenient for you. So now is the time to update your roofing, siding, windows, and bath. DeBella's incredible financing of no payments until 2025 on approved credit. You can start saving today. All right, so we have the Final Four in the NBA set. Other than the Celtics, a little bit surprising the teams that are still hanging around. I mean, I knew Minnesota was good, but you did have to worry about a team that did not have an awful lot of playoff experience, and they were going up against the defending champions, and especially when Denver rattled off 3 in a row, and they could be able to come back, and then the Timberwolves come back, win Game 6, win Game 7, erase a 20-point deficit. All right, we're going to talk about, and by the way, credit to the Timberwolves. Winners get sprinkles on this show. That was a pretty big choke from Denver, isn't it? That's pretty big. You're at home in Game 7.
With the altitude, Justin.
Yeah, on your jerseys. With your 5,280 jerseys, like letting everybody know. This is a pretty big choke
It's
from
the
the defending
complacency of
champion.
being the champs, man. I'm telling you. It's just you don't want it as bad as you did the year before. I really – and the Timberwolves, they're hungry, Justin. They're
But I'm
hungry
just saying,
wolves.
all of that correct, but you had a 20-point lead in the third quarter.
That too.
At home in Game 7. I understand. Hunger aside, right, and Minnesota cranked it up, and it was fun to watch, and it was a fun comeback, and we're going to dive into the whole Anthony Edwards thing. And is Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA? Not yet. By the way, we talk about lessons we don't ever learn. Who is going to be the face of the NBA, right? We've had this discussion multiple times. Who's going to be the face of the NBA? I don't know, but I'll tell you what. Nobody before who has ever been the face of the league got there by winning a second-round series. You get there by winning championships, or at least going to the finals, right? It's like, let's pump the brakes. I think Anthony Edwards is very fun to watch, and I'm excited to watch him play against Luka. That's going to be a fun matchup. Kyrie, all that stuff. But, face of the league, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit, because let's think about, who the other faces of the league were. Steph, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq for a time, Tim Duncan, and then it was the Jordan years. Right? Is there a face of the league I'm missing since, it was Larry and Magic, then it was Jordan, then weird, awkward post-Jordan time, Shaq and Kobe kind of emerged, and then after that, it kind of became a little bit of Kobe, then LeBron, then Steph. Those are your. If I were to give a definitive face of the league of the NBA, that's it and that's all. That's the list. There's a lot of good players, but no one where you would be like, everybody knows who this person is. Well, guess what all of those guys have in common? Rings on their finger. Now, you might say, well, Justin, back in the 80s and really the late 80s, Jordan was becoming the face of the league, and he hadn't won a championship yet, but it was still Magic and Bird's league, even into the late 80s.
There was a brief moment when the Pistons had a moment before Jordan even got there. So it's the cycle is very unique.
Yes. But it's always face of the league. It's you gotta play at the finals level. You got to at least get to the NBA finals. You have to play on the game's biggest stage. And you know what? They might do that. The Timberwolves might do that, and Anthony Edwards might go on a crazy run over these handful of games, whether it's in the Western Conference Finals or in the NBA Finals. And that'd be great, and I'd be more than happy to be like, yep, he's it. He's who everybody is looking at. But we don't crown people after the second round. We never learned that we want to, because we're excited.
Yeah.
And we got days before games now.
And
we don't crown people after the second round.
It's true. And then also cutting the other way, Justin, you can't just win titles. You also have to have some charisma because, again, where do we look at Tim Duncan's 5? He was never a face of the league.
I think
right?
It's tough.
Right?
I think there might have been a stretch where you could make the case that Tim Duncan. All right, here's what I would say.
Get 5.
Here's what I would say, Brenden. The NBA, I think at that point, wanted Tim Duncan to be the face of the league.
Yes, fair.
I think that was where, because You go like 03, 04, 05, right around there. That's when David Stern started putting dress codes, right? Allen Iverson can't wear throwback jerseys anymore and do-rags. I don't know if time's going to be as kind to that decision with David Stern, but it was a business decision at the time. And I think that's Tim Duncan. They wanted Tim Duncan to be the face of the league, but you're right. Not a ton of charisma. Unbelievably good at basketball, but not a ton of charisma. But it was still LeBron. It was Kobe. Ultimately, it would become Steph a handful of years later. It might become Anthony Edwards, but you got to go and play at the biggest level. You don't just get there winning in the second round. But here's some of the other things that I am kind of tracking, because I am all about busting narratives and busting myths. From time to time on this show, I've been prone to lazy takes. Not going to lie. Not going to sit here and be like, I don't just throw in a lazy take here and there. Here's the problem with lazy takes. Sometimes they're right. Here is the problem with lazy takes, is that sometimes lazy takes are right. Lazy take in the NBA, number one, Euros have taken over basketball. The Euros have taken over. Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Luka, the Euros have taken over. American basketball at the high school level is corrupted. AAU and greedy AAU coaches and players not wanting to learn fundamentals, and Instagram and YouTube popularity is more important than being good at basketball. Okay, I get all that. Who's playing right now? Giannis ain't playing. Jokic ain't playing. Embiid's not playing. Yes, Luka Doncic is playing. But he's also playing alongside Kyrie Irving. So when we look at who the best players are right now, currently still in the NBA playoffs, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I think American-born basketball players doing okay. I think we're doing okay. Now, I'm not saying that Luka is not the best player on the Dallas Mavericks, and the Dallas Mavericks may very well be in the NBA Finals. I'm not saying that Rudy Gobert hasn't been somewhat instrumental in what has been going on with the Wolves this year. Not saying that at all. And if Porzingis ultimately comes back for the Boston Celtics, that might be a bit of an X factor. I think he might be out for the first two games. They were saying, I'm not sitting here saying it has to be one or the other. This is what drives me nuts with sports and sports commentary, which I am a part of, is that it has to be one or the other. It's like, American-born players doing just fine. Yeah. Jokic had a good run last year, and he might still be the best player in the world. But he looked pretty mortal yesterday, especially in that fourth quarter. He looked a little bit beat up. He looked a little bit tired, looked a little bit spent. Giannis ain't playing. Embiid ain't playing. And yeah, injuries to both of those players. But if you were to have asked basketball people like a month ago, it's like, I don't even, like, why do American-born players even try anymore? Turns out, American-born players doing just fine. Doing just fine. So there's myth busted number one. Other than Luka and kind of Gobert, best players still in the playoffs right now: Tatum, Brown, Halliburton, Kyrie, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns. Pretty nice little group right there. So there's that. Next thing I want to dive into. We still sure that load management is the way to go in the NBA. We still being sold this bill of goods that load management is the way to go. And here's why I bring this up. If there has been one theme to this postseason, that theme is injuries. Every series has somehow, some way been kind of dictated by injury. And the bill of goods that we were sold on load management, and mentioned Tim Duncan, right? That's how far back it goes. And I don't need to do a quick history lesson, but you guys know I love doing it, so I'm going to do it anyways. The reason load management came into our lives is because Tim Duncan was an aging superstar, and Greg Popovich found a way. It was like, you know what? We're just going to give Tim the night off every once in a while. He's not going to play 82 games in the regular season. He's going to play about 70 games. And every once in a while, he's just going to take a night off. And then Popovich, being who Popovich is, thought it would be hilarious to, keep him out of nationally televised games. Hey, Coach, you're playing on TNT against LeBron tonight? Yeah, Tim's got the night off. Sorry. It was scheduled. And as I've mentioned multiple times, right, load management went from being a health strategy to a status symbol. You load manage when you're a superstar. Superstars can't play all the games because you got to be ready for the playoffs, right? Is what I was always told. Like, hey, full gas tank, got to be ready for the playoffs. You have to let your body recover. Never mind that they limit back-to-backs in the NBA. They have bent head over heels to make sure that the schedule is not as grueling as it even was 5-6 years ago. Yet we were told, got to load manage. Got to load manage, prevent injury, be ready to go at full strength for the post. Oh, Giannis, he got hurt. Dame got hurt. Everybody on the Knicks got hurt. Now, I will say, I don't think the Knicks were load managing. I think that's fair to say, right? Nobody on the Knicks was really load managing. But you think about all the injuries that have been going on in the postseason. Kawhi Leonard got hurt. Porzingis got hurt. Donovan Mitchell got hurt. Massively changed the outcome of that series. Well, why are all these guys getting hurt, Brenden? I thought we were load managing. It's like, we have to have a full gas tank and go to injury prevention. And that way, when you get into the postseason, because that's what we were kind of sold, right? As basketball fans, all right, I will deal with maybe not seeing on a Thursday night, not seeing the best players in the NBA play because they want to take a night off. But for that, I shall get a fully loaded basketball postseason. Nope, everybody's still hurt. Everybody's still hurt. And now I think the blame has shifted because you can't really blame it on – it used to be blamed on the league and on the schedule, right? The schedule's too grueling. Back-to-back – these back-to-back games, especially on the road, blah, 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 the league fixed all that. Well, now it's just all on the coaches. Now all the coaches are taking all the heat. It was J.B. Bickerstaff last week. It was his fault that Donovan Mitchell strained his calf. Now it's Tom Thibodeau.
And the other two major rotation pieces that got hurt.
Exactly. No. It's JB. Well, none of you guys want to play ever. At some point, you got to play basketball. And now Tom Thibodeau is taking the Tom Thibodeau criticism that he takes every single year because he does kind of run his players into the ground, essentially. And OG got hurt, Hart got hurt, and finally it took him to Game 7. But Jalen Brunson finally got hurt, and Julius Randle got hurt. So it might be fair with Thibodeau, but you think about all of the injuries that have been going on in the postseason in the NBA, and with Dame and Giannis, completely changed that series. Embiid, I know, got hurt earlier in the year, but Embiid and injury completely changed the series. The Clippers and the Mavericks. Kawhi gets hurt. Completely changes the series.
It's true.
It's like superstar. I thought load management was supposed to be helping with this.
instance, so I'll look at this. Like last night wasn't a great example because Brunson left the game, I believe, early fourth quarter, or maybe not even into
Went
the
to
fourth.
swipe, got kneed in the hand.
Yeah.
Broken
but like,
hand.
Let's take game one in this series against, for an example, Justin. Like something that I think is looking kind of beyond the box score. So no overtime, game one, mind you. Pacers, Knicks. Justin, let's see. So of the starters, 42 minutes, 44 minutes, 48 minutes, 44 minutes, and then ho-hum 36 minutes. So, I mean, that was just the start of this series. I mean,
but can I be old man yelling at Cloud real quick?
Sure.
You're supposed to be playing 40 minutes in the postseason. You're supposed to.
48?
Was it overtime? Who played 48 minutes?
They played 48 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just saying you should be playing 48 minutes of basketball in the postseason, right?
No breaks.
You want to. Well, not 48. Like, you should get a break, but 40 basketball minutes, that gives you maybe the start of the third quarter, or, middle of third quarter, right? They usually have their breaks kind of in there. You should be playing 40-some minutes a game in the NBA, in the postseason, if you are a superstar. Again, this is me being grumpy old Justin yelling at Cloud.
Like in 3 straight games, Josh Hart played 48 minutes.
But 48.
Like that to me is, he had a quad strain or something. That's what happens. Like to push back on your load management theory slightly, I think Tom Thibodeau takes it to the extreme, Justin. Like he's like, I hate load management so much no one will ever do it. And I'm not saying you load manage in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I just, I think you've got to be keen with rotations to play the long game, and that's why I said I
know it's a different time. But just for fun, Brenden, Michael Jordan played 44 minutes in the flu game. The game he famously was sick. He played 44 minutes in that game.
He's a little better than Josh Hart.
I would think so.
But yeah, you're right. It's fair.
But that's because I am a grumpy Gen X fan who was like, Jordan played 82 games in the regular season. He played 40-some minutes in the postseason. Flu game that he famously was sick as a dog. Like, could you imagine what the flu game would be like today? Because didn't OG Anunoby come back and played what did he play last night?
20-some minutes.
20-some minutes.
He tried.
Jordan had food poisoning. 44 minutes that night.
Different time, man.
Different time. I know. And that's what I'm saying. I know it's a different time, and that's why.
Can I be?
I am. But my thing is, I was told that the reason why all this load management was going on was so they could be playing these long minutes in the postseason. That's why they have to take all these nights off in the regular season. If you're only going to be able to play 36 minutes a night in the postseason, well, then don't take any time off. And Josh Hart's different because Josh Hart, I don't think, took a lot of nights off and then played 48 minutes. I think Thibodeau's, but you see my point, though, is during the regular season, hey, we got a nationally televised game. Yeah, LeBron ain't playing. It's like, why not? Or Embiid, never played against Jokic, right? Hey, Embiid and Jokic. TNT, Thursday night. Yeah, Embiid's not playing. Well, why? Why load management? When we get to the postseason, can't play 40 minutes. All that being said, I am kind of excited about. I'm excited about Does the Pacers have a chance?
No,
they don't have a chance, do they?
I would be.
They might. Well, they're going to win
game or two.
They're going to win game 2 because the Celtics lose game 2 every time. So I would feel very comfortable. Game 2, but I don't know. Every once in a while, the Celtics just have a weird mode they go into where they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we got to start trying now.
The Pacers don't play any defense. We kind of saw that with the Knicks scoring 120s. And I do think that they are very similar to the Dallas Mavericks that made the Western Conference Finals a few years ago, the Portland Trailblazers that made the Western Conference a few years ago. Cool, good story, kind of cute, but now you
pulling a Draymond, they call him fraud.
Now they get to go up against the King. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to put any limits on anybody, Just. You never know.
Well, something that's also interesting about both two teams that are in the Final Four, but also a couple of teams that were still in the postseason as of this weekend is, and kind of looking at it from where we are as Blazer fans, maybe is there some hope for the future? When you look at the blueprints, which we have been obsessed with blueprints, what's the Blazer blueprint? What's the Blazer blueprint? There's a couple of blueprints out there. We'll talk about that in Roundball Rock next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, wrapping up hour number one. Tip of the cap to my very smart wife as we were watching a lot of sports yesterday. She was being a very supportive sports spouse yesterday because Brenden and I had a lot of sports going on. We had a golf tournament, had a couple of basketball game sevens, but she brought up an interesting fact. When you look at even on Saturday when Oklahoma City was going up against Dallas, came right down to, was that a foul? Was that a foul? I was
love
rooting,
fouls called in the last.
I was rooting for a game 7, right? Because I wanted another game 7 because I am selfish. I was rooting for a game 7. So as I am rooting for a game 7, I was like, hey, no, how do you make that call?
For selfish reasons, I was not. And you could share that info with the listening audience if you choose. If not, we can mum's the wiser, Justin. But
no, it's okay. So Ian Eagle's going to be joining us in hour number 2. Excited to talk to him because he was on the call. If Game 7 would have been today, Ian Eagle would not have been available, and Brenden would have had to find another guest.
Not every day Ian Eagle gets to join us. So I appreciate.
Very true. He called the Final Four. So for those selfish reasons, you were rooting. Putting that aside, though, I was like, how do you?
That would have been awesome to have a Game 7, totally.
But like that call, like that. Did he maybe clip? Maybe, but like, I don't know.
I don't like fouls being called at the end anyway.
I don't like.
So it's like
at all. And I don't know if the NBA likes it, but regardless, like that series was coming down to the wire. Oklahoma City had the best record in the West. You look at what Indiana's doing. You look at what Minnesota is doing, right? There is a blueprint here. We're going to bring it back to the Blazers. But the way we do that, though, in this segment is with John Tesh. Here we go. All right, so I've talked about this before. Out of sight, out of mind in the NBA, unless you are in the middle of a tank, which as Blazer fans, we are in the middle of a tank. Every other basketball fan out there, until their team maybe plays the Blazers have been irrelevant now for 2 seasons. The only time they had relevance last year was when Dame would drop like a 50 burger or something. But once Dame got hurt last year, the Blazers have been, from a national perspective, they have been irrelevant. Now, it's not a criticism. It's just a reality. The same reason 2 years ago, when the Indiana Pacers were 25-57, you didn't know anything about them. The same reason why 3 years ago, the Minnesota Timberwolves were 23-49, and you didn't know anything about them other than Karl Anthony Towns was labeled as soft.
Oh, and A-Rod bought them. Well, we thought.
Yeah.
So we thought.
The same reason that in 21-22, the Oklahoma City Thunder were 24-58. And you didn't know anything about them except for it looked to be that Damian Lillard shot that organization completely off the face of the basketball planet. Well, as it turns out, Oklahoma City made it to the second round, got all the way to a Game 6. They also look poised to be somewhat of a factor in the postseason for the foreseeable future. When Dame hit the shot and eliminated them in the first round, the next year they went 22-50. The next year they went 24-58. Last year they went 40-42. This year had the best record in the West. Did they get lucky with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? 100%. Did they also have the benefit of not having to win so that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would essentially play in irrelevant games, but all those minutes in all those games kind of defined what he became, much like maybe Scoot Henderson could do next year? The Indiana Pacers last year, 35-47. 35-47 last year. Year before, They were 25-57. The year before that, they were 34-38. An irrelevant franchise. The only thing we knew about them is that they had Domantas Sabonis and that he was seemingly always on the trading block. They made a trade for Tyrese Halliburton. Seemed to be a win-win because last year, remember, the Kings were lighting the beam with Domantas Sabonis, and they were kind of the cute, fun team in the postseason last year. And now here's the Indiana Pacers going up against the Boston Celtics. Yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe, and they probably aren't going to win. But they are relevant again. Halliburton is a known commodity in the NBA. The Pacers are relevant again. Feels like 95, right? 21-22, they were 25-57. Minnesota Timberwolves heading to the Western Conference Finals. You go back to 2021. 2021, they were 23-49. 2019-2020, remember, played a good chunk of that season before COVID shut everything down. They did not make it to the bubble because they had 19 wins. They were 19-45. And the year before that, they were 36-46. Hit an absolute home run in Anthony Edwards. Now, it wasn't a home run from the jump, remember. Anthony Edwards, good as a rookie, but Brenden, there was no talk of the Minnesota Timberwolves hitting such a home run with that number 1 overall pick that they have changed the face of their franchise. Nowhere close to the talk we had about Zion.
I think you have that win total that year in front of you, the 2020-21 season for Minnesota.
Yeah, 23-49.
So I think the wool gets pulled over your eyes a little bit. Anthony Edwards still averaged 25-3 as a rookie.
I understand.
Like Portland would have killed to have Scoot have
but
those.
Hear me out. I'm talking from a basketball zeitgeist. Was there anybody in that 23-49 season go, hey, watch out, though, for these guys? Because nobody was saying that. And that's the point is I'm saying that's a good thing. Because
they didn't go there yet.
We as Blazer fans all watched Scoot Henderson that last month of the season going like, all right, I can see it. I can see it there. You know who didn't watch that? Every other basketball fan. Because they're busy watching the relevant teams. I would be willing to bet if you were a diehard Minnesota Timberwolves fan, in that 23-49 season, you probably were like, yeah, but I think that Edwards kid's got something. Do you know what I mean? But nobody else in basketball saw it. Like, the Timberwolves weren't being praised for this absolute gem of a number 1 overall pick, but here we are. He might be the face of the NBA. I saw that on ESPN this morning. Point being is I'm trying some rays of hope for the Blazers. Pacers, not that long ago, 25 wins. Minnesota Timberwolves, not that long ago, 23 wins. Thunder, 24 wins just 2 years ago. All right, we've got hour number 2. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals are now set with a pair of Game 7s last night as the Minnesota Timberwolves took down the Denver Nuggets 98-90, overcoming a 20-point third-quarter deficit. The Indiana Pacers earlier in the day outlasted the Knicks, who, again, were ravaged with injuries, 130-109. So the Pacers move on to face the Boston Celtics. The Minnesota Timberwolves will face the Dallas Mavericks, who defeated Oklahoma City on Saturday. Xander Schaufelle wins his first ever major championship by holding off Bryson DeChambeau by one-stroke birdie on the 18th to win the PGA Championship. Coming up in 20 minutes, Ian Eagle from Turner Sports, who was on the call for the Dallas-Oklahoma City series. He's going to join us to talk some NBA. We have also got stuff we saw on the internet. Jam-packed. Hour 2 starts right now at 620, Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. As I mentioned in the update, Ian Eagle is going to be joining us in 20 minutes. We'll move Make or Miss to the third hour of the big show. There's a lot of stuff I've been seeing on the internet because I mentioned it earlier in the show. I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with the Scottie Scheffler thing. I have become a Scottie Scheffler truther. There will be conspiracy theories. I don't know, maybe not enough people care about it. Maybe people have moved on. Maybe he went out, shot a 66, then did not shoot so well on Saturday. And I would imagine maybe because the ordeal finally had taken its toll. Maybe he just didn't play very well. But eyewitness accounts, anonymous quotes given by actual police. So I found this out over the weekend. And this doesn't surprise me. And I would assume it would probably be the same around here if we ever had a major championship. Like I remember, Brenden, I went to the U.S. Open when it was at Chambers Bay up in Tacoma, just outside of Seattle. So I was up there at the U.S. Open. It was awesome. And there's a lot for an event like that around a golf course that's not used to having that many people, right? Other than actually having a tournament, most golf courses, pretty sleepy places. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of crowd control at a golf course for even ones that host big-time tournaments 50 weeks out of the year. It's a pretty sleepy country club. So apparently, Louisville PD, who was obviously dispatched to run crowd control, to be on site. Almost every police officer that was there working the tournament were golf fans. It's hey, you like golf, get some extra duty in. You can see the PGA Championship. It would make a whole lot of sense. Well, as it turns out, the police officers on scene that morning doing the traffic stuff, Brenden, they were not working the tournament. They were not golf fans. So apparently there was a lot of chatter among the police officers at the course who were golf fans. Like, did we just lock up Scottie Scheffler? I have a hunch politicians and lawyers and how do we say it? Influential citizens in and around that country club and in and around that city probably had a couple of meetings over the weekend. Probably going to see charges dropped. Louisville PD wants this behind him. Scottie Scheffler's lawyer was not playing around. He was like, no way, shape, or form did he assault a police officer. Let's just get that out there. We're not making any sort of deal. And I do feel like, I don't know if you did you see his post-match interview? His tune kind of changed a little bit too, because I have a hunch his lawyer's like, look, they're going to drop the charges. We just keep calling it a big misunderstanding. But I was obsessed with this over the weekend. Like I wanted I wanted to know every single thing about it. It was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, it still was.
Did it overshadow the tournament, you think? You're not a golf aficionado. You appreciate the game. You appreciate the majors being part of this show.
Yes, because
Do you think it overshadowed the tournament?
Yes.
I thought by Sunday it was kind of past.
It was all over TikTok, so perhaps. So even China knew what was going on. So
they seem to know everything, don't they?
Man, again,
they are just on it so fast.
This they've
figured out my algorithm. They got me.
Well,
they got me. You got me, China. All right.
I look at it this way too, Justin, is when non-sports people in my life are sending me that, that means it reached non-sports people. And again, I go back to this. Shout out Scotty Scheffler, because I can say right here and right now, he has this image of kind of being this kind of, I don't want to say goody two-shoes, Justin, but kind of help me out with
he's boring.
Never going to ruffle the feathers.
He's boring.
Real nice guy, super Christian, like really nice, genuine guy. Not a lot of zap, I should say.
Boring.
Yeah, okay, fine. That all being said,
and it's not a bad thing. It's just he is boring. He is an incredible golfer. He is there's something inside there, because you can't be the number one player in the world and not have some sort of alpha in you. You know what that? But very carefully crafted public image of Captain Boring.
Yeah,
he's boring.
I mean, even Kirk Cousins has more pizzazz.
For golf standards.
Yeah.
For golf standards, he's boring. At least Kirk Cousins did the Kirk Thuggins, and he would do the videos, and I don't know. Scotty Jeff was just boring.
So that all being said, I think that, it really, folks, I would just like to ask any one of you that are listening at home, sitting in your car, say you're the best at what you do. Say you're the best engineer out there, or one of the best, in this particular instance. Say something like this happened to you. I can sit here for confidence and say there's no way I don't lose my cool, Justin, being like, do you bleeping know who I am? And Scotty, the whole time, from what I've read, is just kind of like, yeah, it's cool, all good. Can I just make it back by my tea time?
Well, I think he's also keenly aware. You don't get the carefully crafted image of that he has without knowing every single time where cameras are. You know what I mean?
Like, what do you think your reaction would have been?
Would not have been good. My reaction would not have
right,
been
and I would bet a whole bunch of people at home.
I also don't live in a world where, other than this YouTube camera right here, and even then I forget that it's on half the time, and I pick my nose in the middle of the segment. Sorry, YouTube audience. Okay, sorry, I had a bug and I had to get it. But I don't
slingshot.
I mean, I think sometimes he had to know, okay, there's going to be a cell phone camera at, he doesn't get to play a round of golf ever without some doofus like me pulling out the camera and filming him. Do you know what I mean? So I think that probably helped.
How would we have reacted if there was a video where he was just like, guys, I won Augusta last month. I'm the best golfer in the world. Just not even being an a-hole or anything.
Not a do you know who I am, but I am a golfer.
I won
I am
the
just
match.
trying to go to the golf tournament. I am a golfer.
I would almost be like, fellas, officers, can we just Google 2024 Master winner? You'll see me in the green jacket. And maybe by the letter of the law, and I guess that doesn't matter if, I don't know. I want to know what happened, but again, I'd love to know.
I think this is going to get so buried.
How are the police officer's pants, though, Justin? And his emotional trauma.
Damage beyond repair.
And his emotional trauma. I mean, it's tough, man. So all that to say, there's still some unanswered questions I have. And hearing from Justin that the body cam was off. Oh,
yeah,
man, I'm
body
peeved.
cam not activated.
I am peeved about that. I'm hot, Justin.
Now, I don't know if that was nefarious or if it was just look, I'm doing traffic, right? It's a golf tournament. It's 6 a.m. It's raining.
So I had to look, Justin. He has been so you said there's a pretty good chance that police officer was a golf fan.
Not the one who put the cuffs on him. So the thing that I read was that all the police officers who were working the event were chosen because they were golf fans.
Okay, so
the police officers that he got into an altercation with, they were on scene because of the accident. They were not golf fans.
Okay.
That guy did not know who Scotty Scheffler was.
Now, that being said,
he thought he was, I think at worst, he thought he was arresting a caddy or maybe overzealous club member.
You want to take a gander, Justin, at how many weeks Scotty Scheffler has been the best golfer in the world? I just would like to throw this out there. He's been the new number one for like a week.
I know. Isn't it over like a year and a half?
88 weeks.
Yeah, that's about a year and a half.
Pushing on 2 years.
It's about a year and a half.
Yep, it's incredible. Anyway, yes, back to your point.
So, I don't know. My point was that the internet's so crazy because, like, this is the biggest story in sports on Friday. This is the most bizarre story in all of sports. And just like, couple game sevens. Hey, Bryson yelled at a fan who tried to steal a golf ball from a kid. Schauffele's your a first-time winner now. And it's like, oh, we're just all past this? Like, Scotty Scheffler got taken away in handcuffs and came back and shot a 66 in the second round. We're just moving past this? This is a Friday news dump? Like, this is what we're doing? All right. Internet's amazing. It truly is. All right. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Ian Eagle. He's play-by-play for the NBA. Also called the Final Four this year. So he's did a fantastic job calling the Final Four. He was there with Dallas and Oklahoma City. Curious his thoughts on what the Mavericks are. Are the Mavericks the most slept-on team kind of left out there? Like, Kyrie is still a former number one overall pick. Luka is he the best player left right now? I mean, I think Jason Tatum's there, but now that Jokic is out, remember I had that question last week with if Jokic is number one, who's the second best player? Is Luka maybe the best player left? We'll talk to Ian Eagle, get his thoughts on that, some other NBA stuff. So very, very excited to talk to Ian Eagle coming up in a bit. But before we get to Ian Eagle, I do want to tell you about Oregon's home improvement experts. That's right, specializing in roofing, siding, windows, and bath renovations. I, of course, am telling you about DeBella. You know what time it is. It's May. And even though the weather might get a little bit gloomy this week, it is still a great time to take care of projects in and around your home. DeBella will come to you on your schedule and provide you with a free estimate. It is so easy. Plus, you can trust them. 15,000 five-star reviews on Google from their customers. And now DeBella has a fantastic financing promotion. No payments until 2025. That, of course, is on approved credit, but no payments until 2025. Also, thinking about going solar? If you do, you could potentially pay for a new roof with savings to your energy bill and federal or state incentives. DeBella has all the details on updating your home and your roof with solar shingles. So contact them today for a free, no-obligation appointment and start upgrading your windows, roofing, siding, bath with DeBella and start saving today. Right, fantastic sports weekend. We had a major in golf. We saw a first-time major champion. We've also seen a couple of first times as the Minnesota Timberwolves take down the Denver Nuggets. The Minnesota Timberwolves are moving on. The Dallas Mavericks also moved on to the Western Conference Finals, the second time they've been there in 3 years. The man who was on the call, and very excited to welcome back to the show from Turner Sports and CBS Sports, play-by-play man, Ian Eagle back on the big show. Ian, good morning. Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Justin, your rejoin music put me back to a different era, back into club. So thank you. I got to relive some very fond memories.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you because obviously, like sports and big events, Ian, are a job for you, and obviously it's an incredible job. I've been very lucky to be able to do this, but every time around this time of year, I get Jonesing for college football. I do, and I'll have producer Brenden just dabbling like a little like South Carolina sandstorm there, or maybe a little like every once in a while. I just need just a little hint of college football, just to kind of get the juices going every once in a while.
I get it. I think there's certain music that puts you in a place. There's certain movies or sporting events that can transport you back to where you were. That's part of the reason why, being a sports fan, you catalog moments like this. And it's visceral, and there's a general emotion that's attached to it. That's very real. I think there's a reason why, amidst all the options out there with different streaming platforms and hundreds upon hundreds of channels and everything that's available to you via the internet, that sports still has its rightful place because of the unpredictable nature and because of the way that it makes you feel. There is something that you can't simulate unless you're going through it. So the fans of the teams that just got eliminated, the raw emotion that you feel when your season is over, and then the fans of the teams that have advanced in the NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, so on. There's something very real that you experience going through the roller coaster ride together.
Ian Eagle, play-by-play, CBS Sports, also Turner Sports. I want to go back a couple of weeks, Ian, and I want to get your thoughts on the NBA and kind of what you were able to see there in Dallas with that series. But this past year was your first year at the helm calling the Final Four, which Final Four has always had a special place in my heart. You mentioned kind of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. It does not get any bigger than in March Madness, and I know you have called March Madness games, but what was that like then moving into that seat that Jim Nantz held for so long and calling that Final Four this year?
Yeah, really interesting, Justin, in that I convinced myself months and months, really years before doing it, that, hey, it's just an additional weekend, just do your thing. And a lot of that philosophy really did ring true. But then once you're there, once you walk into the stadium and there's going to be 70,000 people watching a basketball game, and you're down to 4 teams, and you're down to a finite number of storylines, and you've got everybody that works at your respective networks there, CBS and Turner, and you have the entire college basketball sports media there as well, you realize, oh, wait, no, it's not just like any other weekend. It's not just like any other game. So there was this duality, for me at least, to the weekend of once the game started, lock in, do your thing, don't try to change anything. Don't try to build it up because it's got the automatic build up. The anticipation is there, and you don't have to worry about the sizzle. You have the steak.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I did realize that I was almost at the receiving line of a wedding at center court. You're there, and people are just streaming in. I'm not talking about every now and again. I'm talking about every second. There's someone there that's tapping you on the shoulder, that wants to chat a bit, that wants to take a selfie, that wants to get into the matchups and talk through it. And this is literally minutes before opening tip, where normally I'm in my own little world, I'm doing my thing. I realized, oh, no, that's not gonna happen. So it was really fun, and I just enjoyed every second of it. I truly walked away from the weekend thinking to myself, man, I would love to do that again and again and again. You see why it's so intoxicating. It's just such an enjoyable, big event.
Mhm.
You feel the grandness of the event. It was really a blast.
Ian Eagle from CBS Sports and also from Turner Sports joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's talk some NBA because you were there in Dallas. You were you were on the call, and here's like I've been very lucky because obviously we watch sports for a living, but we've been also very lucky here in Portland that when teams will come through, and we had the run with Dame for a while, and so I've seen Luka Doncic a handful of times. He is one of these guys, Ian, who I have always just kind of drawn to, and when you watch games on TV, he pops off the screen. And I'm curious what you took from watching Luka. He seems to have kind of taken another step forward in this series, but being able to watch him there courtside on the call, what was that like in this series?
Yeah, he's just got a presence about him. There's something in his DNA where he believes that he's the best player on the floor. He wants to show it. He relishes the moment, so he's not going to shy away. And I think the areas in which there is frustration from within the Dallas organization and from those who watch the NBA religiously is, can he harness his emotions? Can he use it for good? Is he getting too caught up in the calls and arguing and not getting back defensively because he didn't get the call on one end? Or continuing to talk to an official 3 plays later and not moving on to the next play? And it's funny, the game that we worked, Game 5 in Oklahoma City, where Dallas took the 3-2 lead, Luka was all of those things except the opposite. He realized, I don't know who got through to him. It might have been Jason Kidd. It might have been assistant coaches. It might have been a team member. It might have been someone from his very close-knit group that, hey, focus on basketball, just do your thing. And he did, and it worked. And you just assumed, okay, he's got it. He flipped the switch. He sees that this is the more effective way, but he got back home, and all of those habits came back. The difference here is they rallied, and they showed a lot of resilience against this young Oklahoma City squad. You don't want to go to a Game 7. You don't want to go back to OKC to play in a Game 7. You had a chance to wrap it up at home. They needed every last bit of their wherewithal to get it done. P.J. Washington getting fouled in the corner on a three-point shot. Debatable. He got him on the arm in my estimation, but came down to the final 2.8 seconds of the game, and he misses the third free throw, which turned out to be the right move because OKC just didn't have enough time to move it up the floor and get a potential game winner up and at the rim. Really hard-fought series. I think Luka is not even close to 100%, but you fight through it because you only get a certain number of chances at this. You don't get every single year you're in the mix anymore. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They finished 11th in the Western Conference. I think at the end of the year they realized that they didn't have it, so they probably took a few games off, realizing that it was better off for them, and it helped their draft position. They ended up making a swap with OKC. They got Derek Lively. You saw how big a role he played in this series, and especially in Game 6. And then they made 2 huge moves before the deadline for Washington and for Gafford. It changed their team, and it gave Luka what they needed, which was a little bit more muscle, more help defensively, and a little bit of an edge. I think that's what Gafford and Washington have brought. Without those 2 guys, the Dallas Mavericks are not in this position. They are not in the Western Conference Finals with a team that was set up prior to the trades.
Ian Eagle, play-by-play for Turner Sports, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And Ian, one of the things that is fascinating about the NBA playoffs, it's an unusual format in that the regular season, every once in a while you'll play a back-to-back, but usually you play a team. Even if it gets a little testy, even if it gets a little physical, even if it's in the division, you get about a week or so, or you get a month or so, and then maybe it'll come back. And then obviously in the postseason, it is every other night, and you start seeing some of these series that kind of just get heated. Not even if it's a heated series, just playing a team night after night after night. Once you get to Game 5 and Game 6, when you are there on the call, like can you feel that, like that these teams are already like they're making adjustments? This guy's really getting irritated with this guy. This guy has maybe found something defensively. Can you kind of get that feel when you're there at the game?
Big time. Big time. You can feel it. Obviously, the venue plays a role. The people around you in OKC, it just feels very tight. Feels like the fans are right on top of the action for whatever reason, the configuration of that arena. And it's college-like in many ways. They haven't had pro sports for that long, so a lot of that fan base was from the college format, and they transferred it over to the professional ranks in the NBA. In Dallas, interesting. The game that Dallas fell short against OKC, the crowd was taken out of it. And that happens. You just don't know why sometimes the compass goes in a certain way and the crowd follows it. But you can feel everything that you're discussing. You can feel that edginess. You can feel the adversarial tones to these games. And it's individual based. There's no doubt Luka was annoyed by Lou Dort.
Yeah.
He just was. And he was at times seeking him. I think that was part of the frustration from the Dallas bench, that instead of just taking advantage of his size and using what he had, he was often looking for Lou Dort to set the tone and then react off it. And I think the Mavericks, in the games that they lost, thought that Luka wasn't doing it himself and was waiting for Dort to do his thing, and then he would react off it or try to answer in some way. But that's real, and that's real from all the playoff games that I did this year. You're right. The ones where you go back-to-back, you feel it a bit more because the adjustments are being made in the series. And there's a lot of pride in these coaching staffs because you're judged in the postseason. There's just no getting around it. That's forever. That's on your permanent record. You could have issues with injuries, circumstances, bad calls, all of those things. You can list them. But when history is viewed 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, people don't remember all those things. They just look at the result and they say, oh, yeah, you didn't get it done. That was the year you were supposed to get it done, and you didn't get it done. OKC was the 1 seed. Yes, it's part of their process. Trust me, they believed they could win this series. They believed they had a magic carpet ride, and they thought they could ride this thing all the way to the NBA Finals. It didn't happen. They'll come back next year. They'll have a strong team, no doubt about it. They'll make some changes, but it's still an opportunity wasted when you go through the postseason, when you have a chance. And they had a chance in this series to make some history.
Ian Eagle, who was on the call as Dallas closes out their series against Oklahoma City over the weekend. Dallas now moves on, and they're going to be taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ian, and boy, we've been talking about this on the show a ton, that it has kind of been almost like a slow changing of the guard. Because you go back in NBA history, right, there were kind of definitive changing of the guards, right? Jordan, we beat Magic Johnson in 91. Jordan retired, and there was kind of all of these moments. Whereas this has kind of been almost a slow fade, and then you turn around and go, oh, Steph, LeBron, Kevin Durant, like they're all gone, and now you've got these young kids. You got Halliburton, you got Anthony Edwards, you got Luka, you've got all the kind of this next generation having their moment. And boy, what a fun series this is going to set up with Minnesota and with Dallas, with lots of star power, because you've got Anthony Edwards in what he is kind of becoming. So, like, there's the argument. I can see the new face of the league, and then Luka and Kyrie. And when you look at these two teams, what do you like in this matchup?
Well, two things strike me. One, we're going to have our 6th different champion in the last 6 years. Yeah. So when you ask about parity, and the NBA didn't really have a whole lot of it. There was a long stretch. It was the same old faces. The usual suspects were rotating. And now we're starting to see what the NBA dreamed of, what the NFL has had now. Not as much with the way Kansas City has dominated of late, but for a while, the NFL had that rolling where you got a different team that emerged, and it kept more fan bases engaged. And the NBA now has it. The other part, which was shocking, but just looking at some posts on social media and some things that popped after the game last night, this one would be hard to believe. But right now, the highest paid player still left in the playoffs. So of all the highest paid players in the NBA, Rudy Gobert is the highest paid player remaining in the postseason. Yeah, and that's based on circumstance and the deal that he signed when he signed it. Get all that. But not Durant, not LeBron, not Steph. All the names that you mentioned earlier are no longer there. It's Rudy Gobert. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they are a great example of patience and then also making moves that may not have been that popular. The Gobert trade, if you remember, was highly criticized. They exit last year in the first round of the playoffs, and the automatic assumption was, all right, this isn't going to work. They gave up way too much. Gobert slows them down. They're now a half-court team. You got Anthony Edwards. Let him go. He's a stallion. Let him run. Well, they figured it out. Chris Finch is a tremendous head coach. Tim Connolly, who's making decisions, helped build that Denver team. He's done the same thing with Minnesota. And it just reminds you how important that is, someone that has vision, someone that works in concert with his head coach, because the two of those guys together determined, hey, we're not pulling the plug on this. We're together on this. We're in lockstep. We both agree this can work. We just have to figure out a way to make it work, and they have. I think they're a tremendous story. I think Edwards is a once-in-a-generation talent. He's highly driven, highly motivated, and highly talented. They have a really nice mix of veterans and young players. They've got guys that are defensive-minded, lock in on their roles. They are very much collaborative in what they do. And the Dallas situation is one that there are holes there, but they have found ways to compensate for them. The Kyrie-Luka pairing has worked, and is it going to work on this stage now with the Western Conference Finals and a chance to go to the NBA Finals? I tend to lean towards Minnesota. I just love what they do defensively, and defense travels. And look what happened when they needed it most in that second half of Game 7 on the road in Denver. They made the Nuggets look pedestrian. They are capable of doing that against any team.
Ian Eagle joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One last thing, Ian. I'm curious because I know you were covering obviously basketball. You were at the Final Four, but you do work for CBS Sports, and I don't know if you're on the Slack channels. I don't know if you're on the group emails or the all staffs. But I'm just curious. What was the word around CBS Sports on Friday morning when Scottie Scheffler got arrested at the PGA Championship?
Nothing that I could speak of on the CBS side. I'm definitely not involved in the golf world, but I was involved like everybody else in complete and utter shock at the circumstances that developed the way that they did. It just felt like that thing could have been handled differently, probably on both ends, but it was very bizarre. I mean, it was very 2024 in many ways, like where we are today in society, that things like that happen when you think, couldn't cooler heads have prevailed? Couldn't somebody have stepped in and said, hey, whoa, let's try to just deal with this and not let it become bigger than it has to be. But yeah, I thought it was a very odd, bizarre set of circumstances that led us to that picture of him, A, being arrested, the video, and then B, the mug shot, which is, as we know, usually the money shot in this situation.
You're right. It's very 2024. It's also very 2024 that happened on a Friday. And then, a Game 6, a couple of Game 7s, Xander Schaufelle wins, and all of a sudden, we're just moving on. Just on to the next, which, again, is also very 2024. Hey, Ian, thank you so much for the time. I always love chatting with you on the show. Obviously love the work that you do, and we look forward to having you back on sometime soon.
Yeah, ditto. My pleasure. It is now officially vacation for me, so this might be the last thing I do until August.
Well, know what?
Maybe the last thing.
Umbrella drinks, if that's your thing, and sunshiny beaches, or a golf course, whatever it is, and you have earned it, my friend.
You got it. Thanks, Justin. See you, man.
There we go. Ian Eagle from CBS Sports and Turner Sports. Boy. What must have been going on at CBS Sports? Because ESPN had the early round coverage, and then CBS Sports had the And then the evening and the weekend coverage, like, hey guys, our day has changed. Anyways, fantastic stuff from Iron Eagle. We are going to head to the break. We got stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up hour 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. We have tentatively titled this segment Stuff I Saw on the Internet. I'm going to take a break from my Scotty Scheffler truther. I don't know. Just find it very convenient for both sides. No body cam. You know what I mean? Found it very, very convenient for all involved after the fact. You're like, boy, and you mentioned it. You, like on Friday, you were looking up
10 days they had to be released.
Louisville body cam. Is it FOIA? Is that what it is for?
It's released for everything else and recorded for everything else. So,
but this one,
surprising.
Weird it was. And by the way, they were like, how many other police around? Like 5, 6? None? Nope. Okay. Anyway, so take a break from my Scotty Scheffler truther time because I want to know what happened. We're never going to because there's a lot of very influential people who are in the business of moving on and moving forward in that situation. But man, what a time. But I did see this. Now I'm not a NASCAR connoisseur. I'll watch Daytona. I watched the Netflix. I think it was called The Chase, is what it was called. I loved it. I like watching like NASCAR like that. Like just the same thing with like F1 Drive to Survive. Like I watch all the Drive to Survive on the F1, and then I tune into a race and I'm like, that's not as good as Netflix. This is actually kind of boring. They're just going to do this? All right. Well, let's get back to I feel that way about NASCAR. NASCAR's got there's a lot of stuff involved, a lot of good old boys, a lot of rivalries, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And if you watch the Netflix series, you kind of get that, right? Because you're fighting for your life every single week, and one guy does one dumb thing, puts you in the wall, you spin out, you're done for the day. Sometimes those tensions, sometimes they boil over. And this was from yesterday. Probably got lost a little bit. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch, is it Pit Road?
Pit Road.
Back where the trailers are, NASCAR fight. So it got me thinking, Brenden, let's tier sports fights. Now, we do not advocate violence, but you know what? Sports is an aggressive world, and all parties involved understand kind of where they are. But let's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, all the way down. Sports fights. I believe baseball is the best. I think baseball has the best fights. The dugouts are right there, right? You always have that time where like batter gets plunked and he's got like that second and a half where he's got to determine, am I going out there? Sometimes it's right away. And then the bullpens come running in and everybody. So I got baseball fights there. Specifically, training camp fights in football. Regular season, usually like everybody's moved on. But training camp fights, basketball fights, like hockey fights don't even count, right? Because they're like kind of part of the deal. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like if you go to a baseball game and there's a brawl, you're like, holy cow, I saw a brawl. You go to a hockey game, you're like, I'm going to see a couple fights. So I don't even know if I could throw them in there. And then you got NASCAR fights. Am I missing one there? I think that's kind of
I think that covers it.
I think that pretty much. Which one's number one for you? Obviously not advocating settling things through violence.
Sometimes the only way to get it done.
Times. You ever been in a fight? You're a little scrap, a little brouhaha?
Middle school.
Middle school was the last one, huh?
Yeah, middle school. As you can see, this.
Did you get in trouble? Did you get suspended?
Oh yeah. Not suspended, no, but
dude,
just
I got
sent to
suspended.
the office for the day. I kind of remember that. Like, they had little desks in the office, and Yeah, no, it's I can remember it very well. It's just kind of one of those things that happened, and nothing crazy, but like, yeah, it just like frustrations boiled over and shoving turned into more shoving. But yeah, I would say probably baseball. When those are like
The baseball brawls are the best.
like when you see the pitcher like throw down his glove, get a wide stance and go, "Come at me, bro," as these hitters will charge the mound. Like that's awesome. I remember I think it was when help me out here. Left-handy for the Dodgers is really bad. Hall of Famer. Clayton Kershaw.
Okay, yeah.
Broke his collarbone when I believe there was a mound charge.
Yes.
Like probably a dozen years or 10 years ago now. But I remember it well. It's like, oh yeah, he stood there, held his ground, and broke his collarbone as a result. So yeah, I mean, hockey, it kind of goes hand in hand. I know right now, friend of the program, Tyson Alger, is saying you guys have to be saying hockey, and more hockey, and I get that.
Yeah, he's on a flight to Africa
That's
right
true.
now. He's
That's
not
true.
worried about
But,
us.
yeah,
But no,
I'll go
the reason I
baseball.
didn't put it out, it's like that is part of the sport. It's not a special thing. If you go to a hockey game and you see a fight, it's like, oh, yeah, that's just kind of what they do. It's an enforcement thing. Whereas, like, you go to a basketball game and you see, like, basketball fights are the worst, right? We put those, like, bottom tier. They're the worst. And there are some bad ones, but for the most part, because they have set the whole parameters, you can't leave the bench, and these guys don't want to be getting in fights. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to, but you can't be looked at as soft. You can't be labeled as soft, so you have to kind of puff up a little bit. But for the most part, these basketball, like, it's a lot of hold me back, bro.
I mean, there used to be fights, Justin.
Yeah,
the NBA back in the old days
Wasn't really better.
No, I'm not saying bad.
Yeah.
You just said like there used to be. Like,
yeah, but
again,
nowadays these guys, I think they're all under the assumption like I can't look like I'm soft. I think that's the best phrase I can use right there.
Luka would use different terms.
But also, that's a lot of money. We're all making a lot of money.
So you think
here.
we could ever see a Malice in the Palace again? Ever?
No, I don't think
basketball?
so. I don't think so. I think, think about like the careers that were altered based upon that one thing. And it was, that's one of the most embarrassing, if not the most embarrassing thing to ever happen in the NBA. So I don't think that's,
Is that the most embarrassing? That could be a topic to get deeper into.
NBA's most embarrassing moment has got to be that. Malice at the Palace.
It
was also because it was at a time where the NBA was taking a lot of hits for its...
Yeah, because civilians got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the NBA at that time, remember in 2004, the NBA was being criticized for the image that the league had. Not saying that's right. It just was we talked about David Stern and the dress code and everything else. And then the Pacers tried to fight the city of Detroit.
I would be surprised as we have just 20 seconds here to ask this
Yep.
out. How come no, and maybe I missed it, how come no Portland media has ever asked Chauncey to recale that moment? Just like in a real, not like getting any buddies, but just like, what was that like kind of a moment? You know what I mean? All the 20 years later. Probably still stands with him. I don't doubt it.
Completely nuts. All right, we have got hour number 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals are set. The Minnesota Timberwolves will be taking on the Dallas Mavericks after the Timberwolves beat the Denver Nuggets. The defending champs are done, 98-90. The Indiana Pacers get a Game 7 win over the Knicks, 130-109. It was really over when Jalen Brunson went down with a broken hand. So Boston and the Pacers. That series begins on Tuesday. Minnesota, Dallas will have Game 1 on Wednesday. Xander Schaufelle wins his first ever major championship by winning the PGA Championship at Valhalla, holding off of Bryson DeChambeau and birdieing 18 to win by one stroke. Hour number 3 of Rip City Mornings gets going right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Big thanks to Ian Eagle, who joined us last hour. You know, he mentioned something that I hadn't really thought of, which, again, we get so used to certain narratives. I hate saying narrative, but it actually is appropriate at this point. But we get used to certain ways of looking at things, right? And Brenden, what was the problem with the NBA? Super teams. Oh, super teams are the problem. All these super teams. All right, well, let's take a look at the recent NBA champions. Right? Recent NBA champions. Denver Nuggets last year, not a super team. The version of the Golden State Warriors that won it the year before was not a super team. In essence of, like, here's how I define a super team, how I would define it. It is essentially more than two either all-stars or significant stars and acquiring them not through the draft. Does that make sense? So
I think you can have a drafted super team, though.
See, I think that's just a really good team. I don't think I would determine that as the super team that is like the Miami Heat when LeBron left and brought Chris Bosh and then Dwayne Wade was there. To me, that like they created the super team. But you can define it any way you want. That's just kind of the way I look at it. Or at least one superstar being acquired via free agency or a trade. So I don't look at the Golden State Warriors from 2 years ago as a super team. They were very good and talented as the last run of the Warrior dynasty, but that was Clay, Steph, and Draymond. That wasn't hired gun Kevin Durant. Do you know what I mean? The year before that, it was the Milwaukee Bucks. Far from a super team. Just 2 all-stars at that particular time. Then you had the Lakers in the bubble. That was a super team. Then the year before that, the Toronto Raptors. Would you consider they weren't really a super team? They went out and got the hired gun in Kawhi Leonard, but they didn't really have any. Pascal Siakam's a good player. Fred VanVleet was a good player, but I don't know if anybody out there other than, you know, and I say this with care. Basketball nerds like yourself, like, do they understand how good Pascal Siakam is? Just like average Joe sports fan?
And the 2 players I think were biggest in that run, that was Kyle Lowry and Marc Gasol. That was Marc Gasol's swan song, man. He was so good that postseason.
Skinny Marc Gasol. Remember when Marc Gasol had like a run in Memphis where it was like, he was kind of Jokic before Jokic, right?
A little bit.
It was like, it never quite worked out.
The Gasols were insanely tough to stop for about a 10-year stretch, especially in Olympics, too.
That is true. But you go back, that wasn't really a super team in Toronto. It was a team that was built incredibly well. Who's the guy there?
Masai Ujiri.
That guy. And then before that, it was the Golden State Warriors. So
Those Cavs teams with LeBron were super teams.
They were 100% super teams, and the Warriors teams with Kevin Durant were super teams. But that was kind of it. Like the Toronto Raptors kind of ended the super team era, really. So the thing that
would they have if Kevin Durant didn't pop his Achilles, Klay Thompson didn't tear his ACL?
all those things are very valid.
I mentioned that yesterday.
100%.
Are the Raptors and Kawhi even another champ?
You know what though? That banner's still flying. You know what I mean?
Well, also the same. I'll tell you the same about the 2020 banner for the Lakers. It's still flying, Justin.
What has more of an asterisk? The 2020 banner or the 2019 banner?
2020, but
2020
2019's closer than you think when you're like,
Like a tiny-
yeah, the two
but
best
like a-
players for the Warriors.
Like a tiny little asterisk. Like
I hear you. I hear you. It's fair.
But you think, like, I didn't even think about it, though. This year, we're going to have a new NBA champion. So, going back to 2019, Raptors, Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, Nuggets, and then there will be now 6 champions in 6 years. 6 different champions in 6 years. But like I said, the narrative or the lazy take, right, is it's the same teams every single year. It's the same teams. It's super. Well, we're past that now. There's actual legitimate parity in the NBA, and I think it's ultimately a good thing on a macro level, also on a micro level, because we've been talking about it. Look at the teams that were still around, even as early as like the 2 teams in the Game 7, right? You had the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks won 50 games this year. They won 47 games last year. 2020 to 2022, New York Knicks were 37 and 45. 37 and 45. They were 41 and 31 in shortened year. COVID year, 21 and 45. That 2019 season, Brenden, without thinking about it, care to venture a guess that COVID or the 2019 season, care to venture a guess what the New York Knicks win total was?
I think that's when they drafted R.J. Barrett, so I'm going to go between 17 and 22.
Very good. It was 17 wins.
Yep.
Right there. From a stretch from 2015 to 2020, the Knicks had 32 wins, 31 wins, 29 wins, 17 wins, 21 wins. They were in a Game 7 with a chance to potentially head to the Eastern Conference Finals. Oklahoma City got eliminated in a Game 6. Felt like it should have gone to a Game 7. It's a tough call to make, but and Blazer fans know this. We're keenly aware, but yeah. 57 wins this year for Oklahoma City, 40 wins last year, but the year before that, 24 wins. Year before that, 22 wins. Teams that are moving on, the Indiana Pacers. 2 years ago, the Indiana Pacers were 25 and 57. Last year, they were 35 and 47. This year, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, 2020 to 2021, 23 wins. The year before that, they had 19 wins. They had more wins than the Knicks. But 36 wins, 19 wins, 23 wins. And then lost in the first round the last 2 years. Now they're in the Western Conference semifinals. Now, every team that I mentioned that has kind of crawled out of the depths of basketball heck, which is where the Blazers currently reside, by the way. The Blazers currently reside. Like they're in the waiting room, paying their dues. Now, all of these teams did it in a very different way. But the reason I bring it up is because I'm hoping that there is a path some way for the Portland Trail Blazers. For the Timberwolves, they knocked it out of the park with Anthony Edwards. They also, now looking at it, to their credit, made what was at the time looked at as an absolute crazy move. If the Timberwolves win the Western Conference Finals, Brenden, have we seen a trade in sports history that is going to be looked at in 2 different lights as the Rudy Gobert trade? Because a year ago, it was the worst trade in basketball history. 5 first-rounders for that guy? 5? And also taking on that contract that, as Ian Eagle pointed out last hour, making the most money in the NBA right now of all the players left. More than Jason Tatum, more than Luka Doncic. Now, it won't be as very soon, but Rudy Gobert's making more money than anybody else left in the playoffs.
We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this and make or miss because this is something that I've nerded out on quite a bit and have some awesome thoughts with. But I will say this, Justin, it is still not bigger than when Paul George was traded for Shea and 7 first-round picks. 7, not 5, 7. It is still the gold standard for all trades ever made in the NBA. We will probably never see a player traded with 7 first-round picks again.
I'm with you.
Especially with the Clippers absolutely failing.
Here's what
Maybe I'm wrong.
Just no matter what the Clippers do, they just are going to lose in the second round. That's what's going to happen.
Prove me wrong. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
they've tried 57 different ways to build that team, and it's like, yeah, you're going to lose in the second round, or sometimes you'll lose in the first round.
I mean, let's look at this just for sake of example, Justin. So, you want to take a gander at since he's been a Clipper, what do you think the high watermark is for Kawhi Leonard played games in a season?
In a season?
It's higher than you think. This last year, I was actually kind of surprised.
58?
68.
68.
Gave 68 this last year compared to no more than 50 the last 3 years, and still unavailable in the postseason. And, then you go to Paul George, who's been a lot more available, but, even this year, it's like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, you wouldn't expect that team to be a first round out.
But I think when you look at that trade, the Paul George trade that the Clippers made, and they gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the second place in MVP voting and all those picks and everything else, but I think most people would look at it and they'd be like, I get it. I understand it. I understand why you would make that deal.
7?
But I'm just saying, as opposed to the Rudy Gobert trade, when everybody was like, 5 first-rounders for Rudy Gobert? I know he blocks a lot of shots, but, he's an offensive liability. And last year, that was the worst trade in NBA history. And then a year later, they're in the Western Conference Finals, and we don't say poo-poo about it.
Adding more
as we shouldn't, because maybe it was not as bad of a deal as we think.
It's true. Like I said, we'll get back into Gobert and make or miss, but adding slight context to this, Justin, not only did they pick up Shea out of the deal, which, he was only an 11 points per game scorer after that rookie year, right?
Yeah.
Nobody really knew. But the fact that only half the picks have gone out, Justin, 3 other OKC starters. So,
well, picks ultimately become players, and that's the biggest thing. Oh, trade all these, get these picks. Yeah, well, those picks are going to become players, and what players are they going to be? Sometimes they're great, like for Oklahoma City. We'll see what happens in Utah. All right, coming up next, we have got Make or Miss. We've also got an RCM mailbag, but Make or Miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, once again, thanks to Ian Eagle who joined us last hour. And so we do the, that's the old switcheroo. That's what that means. So it is a special third-hour treat, even though I know most of you, if not all of you, once you start, you can't stop, right? You're 3-hour listeners, and we appreciate each and every one of you. But it is now time for a third-hour edition of Make or Miss. Here we go.
All right, firing up Make or Miss here on a Monday.
Yes.
Tim Connolly is perhaps the most underrated GM in all of sports if Minnesota wins the title this year. Currently.
All right. Yeah. All right. So let's see.
We mentioned the Gobert.
Who's in the discussion, right? No, nobody really in Major League Baseball, because the Dodgers are a wagon, but the Dodgers have the biggest payroll. They bought Freddie Freeman. They bought Shohei Ohtani. Right? They bought all those guys.
I think Brett Veach, he's the GM for the Kansas City Chiefs, has a case.
Yeah. You would think so.
But that's why I said with the title this year, Justin, because something Ian Eagle said just raised a little flag in my head. And I said, you know what? It's time to go GM nerdy for a minute. So Tim Connolly built the Denver Nuggets. Been there since 2013 as their GM. Pretty much saw the draft of Jokic, everything. The trade of Nurkic, everything to get them to where they were. Then was before they won their title, I'm ready for another challenge. Took the bag from A-Rod and Mark Lowry to go be Minnesota's GM. Now,
when was his first year as a GM?
Not this year, year before.
The year before. Okay.
So my question is here. Mike Malone and Nikola Jokic both said last night, we felt that this team was designed to beat us. So I'm wondering if while the Gobert trade and all of it was really just playing chess to checkers for Tim Connolly quietly going, I need a front court like this. It's going to stop Jokic. Jokic is the biggest, baddest cat in the West right now.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it's Justin, in about, I don't know, let's give him a window, about 7 years, he built not one, but 2 championship NBA quality squads in 2 areas that you would agree with me were not known as basketball hotbeds or would never attract free agents or all those things.
Okay, well, let's have this argument. It's a fun argument. It's a fun discussion. Do we give more credit because he's doing it in Minnesota as opposed to what Brad Stevens has built, which is a wagon in Boston?
He didn't draft Jaylen Brown. He didn't draft Jason Tatum. That was
this guy didn't draft Anthony Edwards, though.
It's true.
He didn't draft Anthony Edwards. He did not draft Karl Anthony Towns.
But traded for Gobert.
He did trade for Gobert. I'm just saying, and I'm with you. I do it all the time. Uniforms are how is he doing it with Minnesota? Because think about this. I did the math on this. Up until 2 years ago, when I believe that was when they won the play-in, right? 2 years ago?
2 or 3, yeah.
So in 21 and 22, the Minnesota Timberwolves went to the Western Conference first round. That was the first year with Finch. Well, Finch took over the year before, and then the first full year with Finch. Before that, the Timberwolves had 1 playoff appearance in 17 seasons. 17 seasons. They lost in the conference finals back in 2004. That was the last ride of Kevin Garnett. He would be traded away a handful of years later, win a championship with the Celtics. And then you would see the Kevin Love desert, right, where Kevin Love was just putting up numbers upon numbers upon numbers. They're yeah, but
at risk
you're winning 15 games and 17 games and 26 games a year.
At risk of having the Love family.
One playoff appearance in 17 years.
Again,
and now they're in the Western Conference Finals.
Justin, the kids these days do not know. They remember Kevin Love as this, little pick and pop guy with LeBron.
He was pulling down 25 boards a game.
Fat Kevin Love. And I mean that with all the most just respect it's given. But Justin, he was a little chunkier back then. And that dude could gobble up rebounds. And then it's like he gets to Cleveland, and I think LeBron says, hey, so we need to be a little bit more agile for our playoff run. But no, I mean, you're totally right. But no, I think it had not gotten enough pub or cred or whatever it is that it wasn't Glenn Taylor that hired away Tim Conley from Denver. That was A-Rod and Mark Lowry.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about it now, it's like, if you can't beat someone, join them. And in this case, it's like, if you can't beat them, take them. And I just, considering that, imagine if this was Portland, Justin. And
No. Portland hires GMs on gut. We just feel it out. Don't worry about it.
I mean, again,
we could interview other people, but no, we're just going to feel it out.
It's true. I mean,
but no, I've been talking about this all morning, and I know I took a little cheap shot of the Blazers there, and you know what? I take it back because I want to be positive. But like, seriously,
not entirely wrong.
When you look at the teams that are having success right now, the teams that are having success in the NBA this year: Knicks, Thunder, Pacers, Timberwolves. Those four all having seasons that us as Blazer fans would kill for. They were all in their fair share of the basement of the NBA, right? The Knicks were in the basement 5 years ago.
However,
the Thunder were in the basement 3 years ago. The Pacers were in the basement 3 years ago. The Timberwolves, 17 years had one playoff appearance. So I guess that's my whole thought is you look at these teams, two of which got to a game, one got to a game 6, one got to a game 7. Then the absolute basement. And I haven't even brought up the Cavs yet. Like the Cleveland Cavaliers were in the basement 3 years ago.
I'm going to give...
They're all thriving and had a shot at potentially making the NBA Finals.
Can I make another plea, Justin, for savvy, smart general manager hires? The Knicks, after years and years of losing, zigged when everyone else was zagging, hired a former agent, right? Leon Rose, big reason why they've, and again, hired Thibodeau, hired Rick Brunson. He brought his song along, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
That all helps. Okay, let's go south. I know this got eliminated. Oklahoma City. Sam Presti, one of the best to ever do it. Period. It's like he's been GM forever, and I think that's an impressive moment too. Interestingly enough, Justin.
Also, by the way, Minnesota, Indiana, Oklahoma City. Not exactly major metropolitan areas.
Well, here's
just throw that out because
you're right.
Because again, remember when Rick Carlisle was like, "Oh, we can't get a fair shake because we're a small market." It's
now you're in the Eastern Finals.
So again, we've been busting myths all day today, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Newest Minnesota and Indiana, along with Boston and Dallas.
Now,
Boston and Dallas, very big cities. I've been to both. Very big. I can attest. But NBA's rigged. Yeah, really? The Timberwolves and the Pacers? Yeah.
And, good players helps too, but I think relationships. I mean, you go back to what Ian Eagle said, and he said specifically, Luka and this team couldn't figure it out last year. It wasn't that Luka got better or Kyrie got better. It was their supporting cast. And, again, going to Dallas, too. Hired, I believe, who was like, ironically, I learned this, too, Nico Harrison, who's the GM of the Mavericks, Justin.
You have set a world record for naming GMs in a segment.
Okay.
I mean, I think we can keep going. Let's see. You want to throw a couple more?
I do have one more I want to throw out. But with Nico, I learned this over the weekend, just the ebbs and flows, Justin. Tigard High School graduate, shout out first of all.
Okay.
Second of all, Nike executive for a long time. And he was the one who flubbed the Steph Curry presentation video when Nike brought in Steph and it said Stephon Curry and then it had Kevin Durant's name on the slide.
I thought it was another player in the draft. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe I have that correct.
Yeah.
I know it was Nico, but then positioned and moved on and shifted his career around. He's like, yeah, up until just recently I was that guy. Now I'm at least known for something else. But last point on this, Justin. Do you know who the GM of the Indiana Pacers is?
No idea. No clue.
One Chad Buchanan. If that name sounds familiar.
Nope.
2011 and 12, Portland Trailblazers general manager before he was given the axe by Mr. Paul Allen.
Didn't Kevin Pritchard go to the Pacers after the Blazers too?
Yes.
So is that just what happens? You come, have a bad draft with the Blazers, and then you just go to the Pacers? Is that just part of the path there?
I just want to confirm this. Yeah, they both work for the Pacers. So there you go.
There we go.
All right, let's go on and move on, make or miss. Yeah, let's go ahead and just continue with this because I think it's very apropos. This, Justin, this is why Glenn Taylor backed out of the Timberwolves sale.
Well, yeah, because they might go to the NBA Finals, and you go to the NBA Finals, and maybe you win it. Maybe you win it. Your franchise, what do you think the NBA Finals is worth to a franchise? Let's do a little. I think it might be worth $1 billion. In all seriousness, it might be worth $1 billion. If you win a championship, you fly a flag like the Cleveland Cavaliers before LeBron came back and went to the finals every year and finally got over the hump and got their valuation was probably way smaller. You bring a parade, you bring a championship, especially to a market like Minnesota. Also, now that the value of that franchise is so much higher. So much higher. And I also think there's a part of it which was, because when did he sell? Like 2 years ago? It's like 2 years ago.
2020.
So 4 years ago then. He got shortchanged by about $1.5 billion. Because since then, you saw what the Jazz sold for. You've seen what the Suns sold for. Who else sold? The Milwaukee Bucks, the Hornets. Like Michael Jordan sold off his, even like what Mark Cuban sold off his shares for, which, by the way, is there a better deal than what Mark Cuban made? Because Mark Cuban got to liquidize the ownership, so he got the billions of dollars in cash, but he still gets to, play owner. What a good deal.
And, now I'll say this. I'm still
gets to play owner.
Because very much like you for Jeopardy, that's me in Shark Tank often. Just always going to turn it on if it's on. And I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss the cubes.
Shark Tank is lost its lure a little bit with me.
That's fair. I still love it.
I get it. There are some shows where I couldn't quit no matter what. There were a lot of Grey's Anatomy years where I'm like, this is getting dumb. But I'm pot committed. I just can't not do it. Also, I will say this. I think that's for me and Bar Rescue right now. I turn on Bar Rescue, Brenden. I could go note for note. I know exactly what's going to happen. And I just can't stop watching.
Yeah,
I just can't stop watching Bar Rescue. I can't quit it. I know it's the same beats every single time. It is so predictable, and yet I cannot stop.
He rotates his experts,
I don't like that, though. That's getting lazy.
Seems to be...
now he sends in the experts to do it for him.
Oh, okay, which, again, I was super into that show, and then, and again, Justin and I disagree on this. It's got to be really intriguing because I know all reality shows are fake, so it's Bar Rescue, it's sure, is the bar as bad as they make it out to be? Maybe, but they're also they're oh, a bar with mold? We'd love to put that in the show and make it as dramatic as possible. Know what I mean? I think they look for bars that are particularly
100%.
bad. Like the worst of the worst.
Because,
kind of a thing.
if you are not in a good spot financially, there's usually a reason for it, right? I can't imagine that any bar's hey, it's clean. They make really good drinks. For whatever reason, they're losing thousands of dollars. No, their employees are stealing from them. It is the most disgusting bar ever. I do think, though, like you said, when they do the recon, when they send in oh, hey, here's some, which, by the way, just one time, let me be recon. Just one time, let me be recon. But when he sends in the recon,
he's still sending
those drinks can't be that bad. Do you know what I mean? They always go in whoa, this is the worst drink I've ever had in my life.
It's still one of my personal favorites is when he's in the car and he walks, he goes, if he has a bite of that, he's going to be sick. And you just see it's pink or it's oh, my goodness. But yes, like Justin said, you serve raw food, the shoe probably fits.
It's so gross.
But yeah, I remember Justin also.
But now, but Bar Rest, I can't quit it, but it's the same. And I got that way with Shark Tank to where And I was like, all right, what
Yeah,
are your
that's fair.
numbers? What are your sales? And
It did blow my mind, though, when I learned that.
can I tell you, I thought, now she's way smarter than way more successful than I'll ever be. Barbara drove me nuts. It's like, I think your numbers are great. I think your sales are phenomenal. I think you are driven, and I think this is something that is good. But you made the label blue, and I just see that as such a mistake. She would always do something like that.
That's so
I just
Barbara.
can't go into business with somebody that would look at this label and think that should be blue. That's just so for that I'm like,
Yeah, I just love that I can always know when Mark Cuban is out, when he just starts his rants, and I always go, and for those reasons, I'm out. But no, I mean, it's I get that. I mean,
I do have a scrub daddy, by the way.
Okay.
I believe that's still the most popular. No, I think what's the most popular thing? I think the scrub daddy is because they passed on the ring.
Yeah, that's what I said. Their biggest miss has to be ring, right? I mean,
I got one of those too.
Oh, who doesn't? Are you kidding me? That put away. I mean, I feel bad for the generation of kids that will never know what it's like to ding dong ditch a house because it's ruined. Like, Justin, there were no, even when I was in those days, which is not all that long, 15, 20 years. I'm like, all that being said, like, there were no camera doorbells back then, Justin. Like, that was still like...
It is also weird because it was a normal thing.
Could you guys ding dong ditch in a small town?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing inherently illegal with it other than just...
It had a different name. I never said it, but it had a very different name.
See, this one is G-rated, Justin.
But yeah, we would do it all the time. We do it all the time. But like, what's funny now is like, it was still a normal thing when I was a kid to go over to your buddy's house and knock on the door. Is Kellen home? And like, yeah. And then you go to the park and you would play. Like, that was a normal thing. And like, now anybody comes and knocks on my door or rings my Ring doorbell, I like have to go through an interrogation. Who are you? What is your business here? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm
How
sorry for
weird is it that like
Very.
we just like anybody at my door, I'm like, who are you? What are you doing here? What is your business, sir or ma'am?
I now know why you don't like the name of it.
Yeah.
It's
Terrible.
Not like it's
Absolutely
not
awful.
like it's anything we could not say on radio, but I'm gonna give my host a little alley-oop, and I know how you feel, but truth be told, Justin, I had never heard that saying until today.
Terrible. Absolutely awful.
I like my version better.
Way better. Way better. Did you ever go over to friends' houses and just knock on the door and see if they were home?
Yeah.
Or was that gone by the time you were
was.
texting?
It was because actually, trying to think, I remember there may have been a time or two, but more funny just for my time period. I remember having to call landlines and be like, that I remember more than like walking over because, my buddy was like, probably half a mile down the neighborhood from me. But yeah, I very distinctly remember having the, landline with a corded phone attached to a wall. Kids look it up. And yeah, that was something, man.
Yeah, and you knew phone numbers
in
your head.
We had the school directory.
See, we didn't even have the school.
Which was very
dangerous.
dangerous.
We didn't have a school directory. You just knew everyone's phone number.
The statute of limitations has passed. Very dangerous for prank phone calls, too. Very dangerous.
Also, then the
dangerous.
other thing was, this is more small town than anything. We only had to memorize 4 numbers because everybody's phone number was 679.
Oh, we had different 3-digit codes, everything. Yeah,
it was the same one.
That's clutch.
All right. What were we talking about? Shark Tank? Mark Cuban? Yeah, that's why is he still the owner of the Timberwolves?
Yeah, and he will probably win.
Like he does, when he sold, they were terrible, and then they got good, and it's like, could you imagine you put in all those years of owning the Timberwolves? Let's say they win it. A-Rod gets to touch the trophy, and you don't? Yeah, I get why you backed out of the deal. All right, coming up next, we have got RCM Mailbag, wrapping up the big show. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits, and I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. There's only one thing left to do. That's open up the mailbag. Here we go.
All right, Justin, let's go ahead and fire up the mailbag today. What's the best takeout food? And why? What? Both for transportation, and quality.
Okay. The best takeout food is Chinese food. It's the best takeout food. Here's why. Burgers and fries have a shelf life. There's a window. You have to drive more than 20 minutes. Those fries are done, right? The fries are done. And so they have yet to figure out a way to package a burger and fries to where it doesn't just have that window slam shut. Pizza is probably 1B on the takeout food items. But I can't explain it, Brenden. I cannot explain it. I don't know. Maybe there is a food science thing. Most food, like if you were to take pasta and stuff as much of it into like a to-go container the way they do with Chinese food, it would become mush. Something about Chinese food, the way that they, like the fact that it is packed in close together, makes it taste better. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? For the life of me, I can't explain it. But there's something about that General Tso's chicken when it is absolutely shoved in to smithereens to that tiny, like, you know how you get like a little, that cardboard container and you're like, that's not going to be very much. And then you're like, whoa, no, there's just more and more. It's like Jesus with the fish. It just keeps coming.
Kinda.
It just keeps.
Don't forget the wine.
Never. And the bread was the bread too.
Yeah, it was all three, baby.
But so I think that's why Chinese food's the best takeout.
Well,
I do something about like the rice, the fried rice, and whatever you want, orange chicken or a sweet and sour. Something about it being packed the way it is. I don't know why, but it seems to taste better. Well, and Chinese food is sneaky too with like portions and how much they can squeeze into those little cartons. That's what I'm saying. Because case in point,
it's like
the spring snakes in the peanut brittle thing.
Right. Case in point with this, when we finally broke tradition and had Chinese on Christmas Eve this year, and we had my sister and my brother-in-law pick it up on the way because it was down here in Tigard, and they come back and they go, "Is that all the food you got?" And I'm like, "It'll last."
Yeah, give it a minute.
And once it got Justin, we had multiple things of leftover food.
Of course.
And lots of people who ate a lot of food.
It is the biggest optical illusion in sports.
Yes.
In food.
Yes.
Is you get like whatever, like, I always do the numbers. Get number 3, and I'll do a number 11, and what the heck, a 24. And then you get it, and you're like, is that what? And then, like, oh, yeah, plenty. It's so much stuff.
Exactly.
So that's why it's the best. That's why it's the best. Pizza's second. After that, they have yet to, like, it's tough. Pasta, burgers, and fries.
Pasta, I would say.
Maybe a burrito.
Yeah.
Burrito's a good takeout food.
Yeah. I've gotten some burritos delivered from, like, Qdoba or Chipotle a time or two, where it's, like, 30 minutes. It's not bad. You throw
But fries are the worst.
Yeah, I don't think fries can. I refuse. And, like, on that reason, like, Five Guys sounds great lots of times on, like, you know, all the food delivery apps. It's just not going to – those fries aren't going to be the same, man.
It's not going to make it. No. All right, you got another one?
Yeah, let's see. This would be a good one. Justin, if you could make your license plate anything and not the whatever it is, 8 digits, 6 digits, you're going to pay more to make it custom, like – you got a buddy down there at DMV who says, Justin, I can slide you a plate free. What do you want it to say?
Man,
I can see hot take for you.
Hot take would be Yeah.
That'd be a fun one to put on your license plate. Just HOT take. God, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be
Well,
solid.
you could do that with like a Oregon. You just have to go HT as hot, or you could do HOTTKE hot take.
Actually, not bad.
That would be a good one. I might think about that.
Justin's like, yeah, I might need to get that.
Going back to when I was a kid, things I thought made people rich. Vanity license plates I thought made you rich. When I was younger and you would see somebody who had a vanity license plate on their car, I always thought, well, clearly a millionaire. Clearly that person is a millionaire. I bet they've got 2 stories. I bet they got a big screen TV and they have got a vanity license plate. But hot take would be good. Just like my name is 5, so I could put my last name on there. Just put Myers on there.
Good. Yeah, I mean,
That's pretty vain.
I've always wanted to be someone who could come up with a
Big rig.
Yeah, like just a
Even though I have a modestly sized truck, it's not a big rig.
It's a lot bigger than mine. It's just I always wanted to be one of those people like Justin. As far as it is, like coming up with like stuff like that, that's left brain stuff, and I'm not quite as creative when it's like someone's like come up with 6-digit or whatever it is. It'd be hard. I would need like time to like sit and like dive into it. You know what I mean?
Also, like, what's the mentality of somebody that has a vanity license plate? You really got to think highly of yourself. You know what I mean? That's not throwing any criticism out there, but it is definitely a certain type of person.
So let me ask you this: Is it
that
worth,
would throw out a vanity license plate?
Is it worth $50 a year?
No.
For me, it's not.
No.
So that's where I'm like, nope, not worth it.
Also, I don't want it. I've never, not since I was like 17.
I'm not gonna lie, like,
But now that you've asked this, I'm going to spend the next day, maybe day and a half,
like I'll say this,
thinking about what I could put as a vanity license
I'm not
plate.
gonna, I don't want to, like throw it out there for but like one of the coolest I've seen. Former coworker here, Mark Mason, has a unique like thing with him being the PA announcer of the Blazers, right?
Yes.
And it's a Rip City plate, and it's really like I've noticed. I'm like, wow, that's really cool and kind of creative, right? So I'm always looking for people who can come up with creative ideas.
It's just not for me. Doesn't really fit. But hey, if you got a vanity license plate, good for you. The ones that I think there should be a law though on your license plate frame, you should have to say what it means. Like, yeah, I want an explanation. I want to know what on earth that means. You need to put it on the license plate frame. Let's make that work. All right. Thanks to Ian Eagle from CBS Sports. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Monday. We're back tomorrow morning bright and early here on 620 Rip City Radio.